The first thing I learned about the Zaltheran throne world was that fire there did not behave like fire anywhere else. It didn't simply burn. It hunted. The flames that devoured the grand citadel of Erexia moved with intelligence, curling around stone that resisted them, flaring brighter when fear rose in the air, dimming when hope tried to survive. As my dropship tore through the ash-choked sky, alarms screaming and hull plating glowing red, I wondered if the galaxy would ever know how close it came to losing one of its oldest civilizations, or how close I came to dying for a queen who wasn't even my species. I wasn't a soldier by choice. Humanity rarely was, not at first. I had been an engineer assigned to the Coalition Relief Corps, patched together crews sent to stabilize worlds after wars, disasters, or political collapses. The Zaltheran Civil War had been all three. Their empire spanned 12 sectors, ruled for millennia by queens whose authority was bound not just by law, but by biology. Zaltherans were tall, obsidian-skinned, crowned with natural crests that flared with emotion. Their queens were something else entirely, living conduits of psychic resonance that kept their fractious noble houses in balance. When Queen Velith ascended, she was young by their standards, brilliant, idealistic, and hated by half her court. The coup had come during the Festival of Embers, a sacred rite meant to celebrate unity. Instead, the citadel burned from within. Rebel houses sabotaged the city's core reactors, turning ceremonial flame chambers into infernos. By the time Coalition forces arrived, most assumed the Queen was already dead. Most were wrong. I found her because I refused to retreat. My dropship crash-landed on one of the citadel's outer terraces, skidding across molten stone before slamming into a shattered spire. The crew evacuated under emergency protocol, but I stayed behind long enough to pull a sensor pack from the wreck. Through the smoke and psychic static, one signal stood out, faint, erratic, but unmistakably royal. Zaltheran queens emitted a unique biopsionic frequency. It was how their people felt them even across star systems. And it was fading. I moved through corridors that had become rivers of fire. The heat should have killed me, but the citadel's emergency fields, flickering and unstable, kept the worst at bay. I passed bodies, warriors, attendants, nobles who had thought themselves untouchable. Near the central sanctum, I heard a sound that cut through the raw flames. Breathing. I found her collapsed beneath a fallen arch, her ceremonial armor cracked and glowing at the seams. Flames licked at her form, recoiling strangely when they came too close to her crest. Her eyes, golden, luminous, snapped open when I approached. A human, in her palace. Alive. She tried to rise and failed. "Stay down," I said, though I doubted she understood my language. I activated my translator, hands already working to assess the damage to her armor. Zaltheran royal plate was biolinked, designed to amplify the Queen's resonance. When it cracked, feedback could kill her. Her voice entered my mind before it reached my ears. "You should flee," she said. "This fire seeks me." "Yeah," I muttered, pulling a portable sea lamp from my kit. "I've noticed." She watched me with suspicion, pain, and something else. Shock, perhaps. Humans weren't known for defying royal deaths. Off fires, that thought. The sealant hissed as I reinforced her armor, buying her time. When a support beam collapsed nearby, I shielded her with my body without thinking. That was my mistake. Zaltheran queens were bound by ancient laws. One of them was invoked when a non-Zaltheran willingly risked death to save the queen's life within the heart of her domain. I didn't know that, but the galaxy did. We escaped through a maintenance shaft as the citadel finally collapsed inward, flames devouring the throne room in a spiral of light and ash. Coalition ships pulled us from orbit minutes before Virexia's core defenses detonated. Queen Vela survived. The rebellion didn't. In the aftermath, I expected to be thanked, maybe decorated, sent home. Instead, I was summoned. The Zaltheran High Conclave convened aboard their surviving flagship, a cathedral of obsidian and light. I stood alone on the chamber floor while towering nobles watched from above, crests flaring with restrained emotion. Queen Velith entered last. She no longer wore ceremonial armor. Instead, she wore a mantle of living crystal, symbol of survival and legitimacy. Her gaze found me instantly. When she spoke, the chamber fell silent. By ancient accord, she declared, the human known as Elias Rourke has fulfilled the rite of living flame. The nobles erupted. Outrage, shock, denial. I had no idea what she was talking about. The rite binds rescue to sovereign, she continued, not as subject, not as vassal. Her eyes softened, but as consort. I nearly collapsed. Coalition diplomats scrambled. Legal teams panicked. Humanity had treaties forbidding political marriages with sovereign non-human rulers, especially psychic ones. But Zaltheran law didn't care. To them, marriage wasn't romance. It was resonance, and the galaxy paid attention. News spread faster than light. Human marries alien queen. Engineer becomes galactic consort. Is humanity now a royal power? I was moved to the Queen's flagship under protective custody, though it felt more like exile. Everywhere I went, I felt eyes on me, guards assessing, nobles whispering, servants bowing when I passed. Queen Velith summoned me privately on the seventh cycle. Her chambers were vast, but she stood alone near a viewing aperture, watching stars drift by. You did not consent, she said quietly. No, I admitted. I didn't even know. I would release you if I could, she said. But the right is older than my throne. To deny it would fracture my people again. I met her gaze. So what happens now? She turned fully toward me, crest glowing softly. We learn whether the galaxy can accept a human at the heart of an empire. The following months were a trial by fire of a different kind. Assassination attempts came first, subtle at first, then blatant, poisoned their recyclers, sabotaged gravity wells. Once, a noble house unleashed a psionic beast inside the palace. Each time, Vila stood firm. Each time, I survived. Not because I was strong, but because I learned. Zaltheran culture was built on emotional truth. They sensed dishonesty like scent. I couldn't fake reverence, so I offered honesty. I didn't kneel, but I listened. I learned their history, their grief, their fear of extinction in a galaxy that changed too fast. And slowly, they listened back. The turning point came during the trial of resonance. Ancient, public, dangerous. I was placed within a psychic lattice designed to amplify the Queen's presence. If my mind fractured, the marriage would be deemed invalid. If I resisted her, if it outweighed trust, I would be burned out of existence. As Velith joined the lattice, I felt her not as a ruler, but as a being. Lonely, burdened, terrified of failing her people. I opened myself fully, not with submission, but with choice. When the lattice disengaged, the chamber was silent. Then the nobles bowed. Years later, when the galaxy finally stabilized, historians would argue whether that moment marked the rise of a new era. I only knew that when the Queen reached for my hand afterward, it wasn't law that bound us. It was understanding. The final challenge came from beyond the Empire. A coalition of hostile species, fearing a unified Zaltheran human axis, launched a preemptive strike on the border worlds. Entire systems burned. This time, I didn't rescue Velith from the flames. We stood in them together. As co-strategists, as symbols, as partners, human engineering met Zaltheran resonance in ways no one had predicted. Fleets coordinated through shared psychic quantum networks. Soldiers fought knowing their ruler stood beside them, not above. The war ended swiftly, decisively. When peace was declared, the galaxy adjusted its language. I was no longer the human who saved the Queen. I was the Queen's husband. A title spoken with caution, then respect, then, finally, acceptance. On the anniversary of Erexia's fall, we returned to the rebuilt world. A new citadel rose from crystal and flame-resistant alloy. At its heart burned controlled fire, tamed, symbolic, no longer hunting. Vila stood beside me, her crest glowing gently. "You never asked for this life," she said. "No," I replied, "but I chose to stay." She turned to face me, not as queen, but as a being I'd pulled from the fire. "And if the galaxy burns again?" she asked. I smiled faintly. Then we faced the flames together. Above us, the fire burned steady. And for the first time in a long time, the galaxy felt warm, not with destruction, but with hope.